Hello guys, I'm sorry, my hair kinda looks crazy right now. Look at the top of my head. I just woke up, y'all. And you know what I just woke up to? Realizing some sad news that yesterday in San Diego, California, two teenagers went into a sacred place of worship, a masjid, or many people will call it a mosque in English, where Muslims were praying. They went in there and they killed three people, and then the two teenagers killed themselves after committing this heinous hate crime. And you know what? I can go onto YouTube to any major news outlet, whether it's liberal or conservative or whatever nonsense terms you want to throw around to try to keep people divided and keep their eyes closed. And I can go to the comments section and sort by newest. And all I see is some very disappointing views. It's not one person or two, like thousands and thousands and thousands of people just with some very disappointing views. Most of the stuff that I'm calling disappointing views is just other people who are a red flag. The FBI should look into these people because they're the kind of people who, I don't know, would shoot people for having different religions or skin colors than they have. Anyway, it's just crazy, you know. There's people spreading so much bogus information. There's people like, oh, the Muslims are coming and taking over our country. They're going to make pork illegal, and they're introducing, what's it called? Hips like Shakira. Shakira law is coming in here. The Shakira law. And I'm like, are you delusional? If there's any people coming into this country with a certain religion who are trying to take over the country and introduce laws that don't benefit most American people and only benefit said religious group, I think you and I know exactly who's doing that and who the US government is giving billions of dollars to every single year to blow up children. And well, I wouldn't ask you to attack them or commit a hate crime. That's pretty horrible. No one deserves to be killed just because of their faith. And most likely, you wouldn't be going after Zionist politicians if you're the kind of person to think to do something like that. You don't have the mental capacity to, differentiate between different people. You're just like, this group the same. Well, we got the whites, we got the blacks, and these guys are like this. That's the problem with people. They don't have no individualism. They can't look at people as individual human beings, only responsible for their own actions. That's why I get into arguments with these neo-Nazis online, and they're like, but Brennan, you're stupid. The blacks did this. The blacks did that. The blacks are gonna do this. And I'm like, who the heck is the blacks? Can you name some people? Like, you make it sound like there's a big top secret shadowy organization called The Blacks that's just like out there scheming from the shadows, you know? Like, goodness, I don't even think anyone's ever seen the Blacks. How do we know they exist? Because I don't know what you're talking about, but this The Blacks that's ominous lurking from the shadows doing all this stuff, who knows anyone who's doing all that, right? Now, it would be one thing if these people were, having an honest conversation and being intellectually honest, and they were just talking about all this stuff. But they're just yapping random buzzwords. All these hateful people are scaring me because every couple years, when it seems like people in America are just Americans and we're just living and doing fine, and people have common sense and are like, yeah, that person might look different from me, whatever, this person might be darker, that person might be like, have like fake eyebrows or something, that person might have eyes shaped like this or whatever, but we're all just people, we just look different because, different parts of the world were adapted to different climates. But there's just too many crazy people out there, guys. I'll just be going on the internet on a live stream, doing genealogy and stuff and talking about history of community and stuff like that. And I get people talking about why you look like such and such. Oh, big scary race mixing sin, race mixing. And I'm like, what is race mixing? What are you talking about? And they just start saying a bunch of nonsense. I'm like, why are you harassing me? I'm just on a YouTube live stream talking about history. I'm not even in a relationship with anyone. All these white supremacists keep harassing me because they're paranoid that I'm going to like some white woman's gonna like me or something, and they're scared of that. And to be honest, I am interested in any people. I don't care what color people are. If I ever happen to end up with a white person, it is what it is. They can stay mad. But really, I'm not particularly attracted to white women. I'm not seeking them out or looking for anyone just because they're white. I'm not going to look for people based just on race because I'm not weird like these people who keep harassing me, right? But if I were going to do something like that, then I would probably find someone who looks like me. And but that's the crazy thing, guys. These people are so weird and so obsessed. They've practically ruined my life. That's the problem with this country. It's not just people, there's certain people in this country, not everyone, but many people in this country have an issue with hate or ignorance, which aren't the same thing, but one can lead to another often. And often, when someone's hateful, they gotta be ignorant, right? So there's some kind of correlation there. But a big problem is people's obsession with what they call race. And by the way, it's not even really real. You can't even draw lines and scientifically prove that these races actually exist with any category. It's basically just what people look like. A lot of people are indigenous and they're practically the same as a Native American in South Texas, but if they speak Spanish, they're Latino. And people say they look Latino too, but what does Latino even look like? What does that mean? Think about it. There's white Latinos, black Latinos, native Latinos, and mixed Latinos. There's even Arab Latinos. Brazil has like millions of Arabs. Even in Argentina, there's many people, and they have Italian ancestry. There's a village in Argentina where everybody speaks Welsh. They're like Celtic. What does a Latino even look like? Is it just like any mixed person who's ambiguous? I know many people watching this might be familiar with my adopted dad. My dad, Sherman, was a really great man, and may he rest in peace. It's been almost a decade now, and still I miss him all the same. But when he was still alive in this world, sometimes if we went to like a Mexican restaurant or something, people would try to start speaking to him in Spanish. Because people just think if someone is like mixed or racially ambiguous, they just look Latino. But think about how fake all these labels and this so-called race stuff is. What do you mean people look Latino? What does that even look like? Isn't Latino just anyone from Latin American countries who speak Spanish? All these racist people saying exist, they got a whole bunch of them all over there, and they're all just called Latino. And here in the USA, it's like a separate category. People are like, oh no, Nick Fuentes isn't white, he's Latino. Dude, he's white. He just comes from a Spanish-speaking background. I don't even know if he has any native or black in him at all. He don't look like it though, alright? In his mind, he's fully white, If he ain't white, he's gotta be the biggest coon I ever seen or something. But dude, this is just all these crazy people with all this hatred and all this deep fixation and obsession with people is kind of weird. It's like all these videos, the YouTube algorithm keeps trying to force down everyone's throat lately. They're using freaking pliers to keep your mouth open, and they got their fist with a glove on. They're just trying to force these videos down your throat. You're like, I can't breathe, I'm choking, get your freaking hand out my mouth. And YouTube's like, watch it, you're gonna consume it and you're gonna like it. And all these ridiculous videos we've been seeing lately about black fatigue. And you're like, okay, what's this? And if you watch some of these videos, it's just white supremacists airing their grievance and saying that they're tired of black people. And what do they mean, black people? They mean any black people who they're not happy with because, they're doing something. I can literally go on YouTube and watch hours and hours and hours of videos of people who just happen to be white people doing some pretty dumb stuff, blaring music in subway trains and just, harassing people for content, saying like, it's just a prank, bro, lighten up. And just messing with people, spray painting and vandalizing and cursing and doing all this crazy stuff. People wanting to act gangster and stuff, sagging their pants. White people running around doing all this stuff all the time, all over the place. But you know what? People have common sense enough to not be like, oh, all white people are the same and they're all responsible, man. This is just giving me white fatigue. I'm just tired of these white people. They're all wiggas, man. People seem to have logic to know that's absolutely ridiculous. But if you, reverse the roles and have a black person doing this, it's all of a sudden, oh, black fatigue, it's because they're black. you know. And looping back to the start of this video when we talked about, hate crimes against Muslims and the mosque shooter, I've experienced not just people hating on me for being mixed and being like, blah, 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 race mixing, you're evil, blah, 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 the Bible doesn't say this, but I'm gonna say it says this, blah, blah. But at the same time, I've also faced crazy people hating on me because of my religious belief. I won't say who, but even some of my closest relatives who I'm supposed to look up for have said things in the past, year or two ago that really hurt me, frickin' messed with me. And after that, I never trusted them, never opened up to them again after things was going on in my life. And they just didn't even know the stuff I was going through. And they fricked up. Right? Because I would have if I was out late, and it was 8:30 p.m. and I forgot I was gonna visit a dinner with someone or something, I'd come back and they tried to make everything about my belief. If I'm late because I was out hiking too far and I forgot that there was a dinner event until it was too late and I arrive at the dinner event late, they'd be like, oh, you Muslims, I think they pray after sunset. It's because he's a Muslim. And I'm like, what? If I got upset with my parents or something and I had friends over and I feel like people are misunderstanding my whole point, and so I want to make it clear, like, oh, you're talking back to your parents, you're evil, it's because you're a Muslim, that must be just a Muslim thing. And I'm like, what, do you even know what the religious books I read say about how you're supposed to respect your parents and heaven is at your mother's feet? If you actually understood the things that I've read about respecting parents, you'd understand that it's literally the most delusional thing ever to say that my faith teaches me not to respect my parents. That is a complete contradiction with everything that I've read. I don't know where they're getting that. But because I'm a human, I can make mistakes, and I don't know how to make mistakes yet. I still gotta learn to use grills and steak seasoning. I might not know how to make mistakes yet, but sometimes I do make mistakes. And as a human, instead of just, people correcting me and trying to talk to me over it, or even if I'm just in a bad moment, just point it out and be like, hey dude, look what you're doing. Don't you realize how hypocritical this is? But no, instead of just, giving me the humanity and seeing the human in me because I'm different, all they can see is, wait, didn't that guy say he converted to Islam? He's a Muslim. He's one of them terrorists. That's why I went to several different schools, and I had kids who kept bullying me and saying I was a terrorist. And every time I got mad at them, told them to knock it off, and made them mad, so they're telling the teacher, look, this guy's being a terroristic threat. Did you hear what he said? And there would be someone who was sitting right next to me being like, he just said knock it off. And they'll be like, no, you don't get it. They had a face when they said it. It's psychological. That was a terrorist threat. They're freaking messing with the teachers to the point where I've had several teachers think that I was a terrorist. And to be honest, when I was in Lorain High School, I went there for a couple months in Lorain, Ohio. Part of that was my own mistake one time because I was talking to someone who was asking me questions during free time, It wasn't me interrupting the teacher. The teacher wasn't trying to talk. They were playing on their phone. And I was talking to someone about stuff. And I was explaining things to them and answering questions they had because they started a conversation with me out of curiosity and wanted to learn some things from me that I knew. And I was teaching them the meaning of a word called jihad, which you've probably seen on CNN in the news. And someone overheard me just saying like jihad, the struggle, blah blah blah, and they weren't listening to anything else they said. I had this like teacher come in and say, "You need to go to the office now." I was like, "Why?" And this teacher who walked by past the open door and heard me in the hallway was like, "This kid said jihad. He's talking about doing the jihad." And the kid next to me, one, not the kid who was asking me, but someone else who was just listening the whole time was like, "Dude, he was saying jihad means a struggle, like a struggle to do what's right and do what's good and fight against your ego and stuff." He was talking about jihad al-nafs, which is a real thing that all Muslims believe in, jihad al-nafs, and it's a struggle against your own self and your inner ego and stuff. And I had even been saying stuff like, every morning I wake up in the morning and I brush my teeth, keeping hygiene. That's a real struggle that I have to do. That's one of my jihads. And this teacher come in like, "Yo, this guy's saying jihad. He's a terrorist." So, I should have known that most people don't know this stuff. And when they hear that word, the first thing they're gonna think is like a clip from CNN in 2016, like some radical extremist that was probably funded by the CIA and was definitely given arms by the CIA, talking about the U.S. government. If they don't do this and this, I will decapitate this man, and so if he dies, it's the U.S. government's fault, everyone, and you're all witness to me doing this. I'm like, "Bro, what are you talking about? You guys think that you guys are building a so-called Islamic state? Do you know anything about Islam? You can't just decapitate innocent people. Like, where are you getting any of this knowledge? This is just like all those Christians that think Jesus spoke English and was a white man and stuff. And they're like, guys, white Jesus said, hate thy neighbor. We have to kick out everyone who doesn't look like us. Those immigrants with Native American DNA, they don't belong here. They're flooding this country. They're stealing our land. The white man's land given to us by white Jesus." I'm like, you guys are literally like walking caricatures of ignorance, There's too many crazy people in this world. And it ain't just the racism and the crazy people. Both of those kinds of people, crazy people and racist people, and crazy racist people, all kinds of people is being those things. I'm not even saying it's just white people. I'm just going over my own experiences and stuff. And I mean, where I live, I haven't ran into a bunch of crazy Asian supremacists lately. There's just not many of those around where I live. So I can only speak from my experience and stuff I really know about, stuff that I actually experienced myself, because I don't want to feed you fake news. I'm not CNN, I'm not Fox News. But guys, there's too many crazy people and racist people, and there's way too many crazy racist people in this country, and they're coming from all walks of life, and they're absolutely wreaking havoc and destruction on this country. I'm surprised it hasn't imploded into another civil war by now. It's too crazy.